Oh, hang on just a second. Let me grab this coffee. All right, here we go. Welcome to Cardboard Meditation. I'm the big guy, and this is a special segment that I've created where we're going to highlight a vintage set and dive deep into its history and beauty and its importance to the hobby. Now, before we get too far into this, I'm going to probably throw something out here with this video that's going to trigger some people. Calm down. Please watch the video before you comment. And I don't normally do a lot of controversial stuff. I'm not like that. I know that generates subs and I know that generates likes and views, but I'd rather just do it honestly and earnestly. So I would like to just have you watch this video and maybe enjoy it and learn something new, because this is kind of a unique set we're going to talk about. And it is such a unique segment to my program that I've named it after a hobby giant right now, somebody who's in the hobby and is kind of one of the more important influencers that we've seen today, whether you like them or not. And I just want you to see who that is in just a second. So before we get there, I'm not just the big guy, I am the old guy. So I've got some history in the hobby. And I know that over the years, older cards, or vintage cards as they're known today, they maintain their value. So hold on, we're going to take a look at some truly gorgeous sets in these segments coming up, including today on our first segment of If I Had Geoff Wilson's Money.
If I had Geoff Wilson's money, I'd buy me a vintage card. Love those autos and parallels. Don't know nothing about those cherry stars. My vintage stars will keep their value. So buy old car, be happy, why don't you? Buy you a vintage car.
So if you're looking to invest, you'll find no shortage of opinions here on YouTube. Perhaps the most influential channel being Sports Cards Investor with Geoff Wilson and Teapot from Market Movers. Teapot, that guy knows his stuff. I can't attest to their recommendations or their assessments on the up and downs of the modern cards. I think they're pretty good. Now, vintage cards is something they cover from time to time, but they don't do a whole lot of shows on that because they're really looking at some of the new stuff, the modern stuff. But I can tell you that they maintain their value, and you can just check that out. Just pick up an old Beckett and take a look at it and see where they're at then and where they're at now. I'm not saying invest in them. I'm saying buy them. Get you some happiness into your life. Enjoy them. One of the things we need in our hobby is more musty, scented, rounded corners, pressed cardboard that's just good for your soul. So let's get right into the cards. And here's what I'd do if I had Geoff Wilson's money. I'd buy these. These are the George C. Miller baseball cards from 1933. They're identified in the American Card Catalog as R300 George C. Miller baseball cards. There are 32 cards in the set, and they're unnumbered. Now, you hardly ever see these in the wild anymore, but when you do, they kind of stick with you. They're obviously paintings of the best players of their day and lots of Hall of Famers. The design offers an up-close image with mostly forward-posed shots, and every card has a similar background. There's a wooded landscape with a green field and a beautiful, now I'm going to call it a Michigan sky at sunset. That's not what it really is, but that's what it looks like to me. You be the judge. I just took this from my front yard just this week. All right. There isn't any text on the front. The card backs are packed with player info, stats, and a checklist, and details on the promotion because there are a candy promotion with this. There are two different back designs available. The first printings, known as Type 1, have a bigger text and brighter printing, and misspelled names for Jimmy Fox and Chuck Klein when in that checklist. So the Type 1 spelling was Fox with one X and Klein with an I-E-N instead of E-I-N. Type 2 had it all corrected. However, the text for the ad at the bottom doesn't match up with the first printing, but it's all minor stuff. But if you're into collecting errors and stuff, I suppose that's gonna ring your bell. These cards and the artwork were really aimed at children and were premiums in the box of Miller Candy Company's American Ball Game and National Ball Game toffee. Toffee! I know chewing toffee on a ball game is probably not the ideal thing to do, but man, who doesn't like toffee? I wonder why they don't do that now. There were two separate packages, like I said, one for the National League and one for the American League. So you'd see those two wrappers. I've got a example here, but it's just of one of the wrappers. They're 2 3/8 by 2 7/8 size, and that's the same size as the 1948 Leaf cards. Now, these beauties were only issued in and around the Boston area, and that's probably why they're kind of rare. The cool thing is about these cards, I told you they were a promotion. It's because you could redeem the cards for a baseball, a glove, even tickets to the ball game. Now, the redeem cards, when the prize was shipped, they also returned the cards as well. They were, however, altered or canceled to prevent duplicate redemption. And the company sent them back with edges being trimmed, like the bottom of the edge, bottom of the card, little holes poked in around the surface. And there's some other signs of cancellation, too, people have reported. One of the better prizes was a complete set of these cards. Now, for unknown reasons, perhaps because the company wanted to keep the amount of sets from being printed and shipped to a minimum, they short printed the Ivy Paul Andrews card. It's very tough, if not impossible, to find in any condition. And if you can find one, it's almost certainly going to show damage associated with being canceled. It's so rare that a lot of collectors claim it's a complete set at 31 cards. Now, many Yankee fans, they got a little torqued off because the Miller Candy Company didn't use Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig. They used Red Ruffing and Bill Dickey in the set, which are both great cards, and you can probably see that if you look them up. But you don't have to look them up. I'm going to show them to you right now. What I want to do is show you the one I like the best, the one that someday I'm going to own because, oh, by the way, I didn't say this at the beginning. I own none of these cards. They're a little pricey for me, but I do absolutely love them. It's the Charlie Gehringer card. You know, Charlie was nicknamed the Mechanical Man, and he's a Hall of Famer, and he lived and was born right here in the magnificent state of Michigan. Played second base for the very important team, a very important 3 pennant-winning team for the Tigers. And, he's a distant cousin of Hall of Famer John Smoltz. Yeah, because Smoltz was born here, too. All right, here's another one for you. Chick Hafey, Hall of Famer. He has a .317 career batting average, and his real name was Charles James Hafey. And he only played in 1,283 games, but still had 1,466 hits. Really had bad eyesight and sinus issues, but it didn't stop him from winning a batting title. He played in the first All-Star game and had the very first hit in that game. He got beamed a lot, and that may have led to his eyesight problems. Now, you've heard of Dizzy Dean. Now, did you know that Dizzy's real name is J. Hannah Dean? I did not know that. I like Dizzy better. He only finished the second grade, and he was one of those folksy old ball players, kind of colorful and eccentric. Red Smith, one of the famous sports writers of the day, once said about Dizzy, nobody ever taught him baseball. He never had to learn. This is Goose Goslin, very famous for his hitting, and he's in the Hall of Fame, but back in the days of playing for him, he was remembered for an unfortunate lack of focus, and it was the 1924 World Series. He hit one of those home runs where he zipped out of the batter's box, chugged around the bases, and slid into home, and was called out. You see, with Goose and all the excitement of running the bases, he missed first base. Back then, they kind of let him have it, kind of like the way Bill Buckner had to survive his ordeal. But like Bill Buckner, they're good ball players, Goose Goslin. Next one is Jimmy Fox, known as Double X. His fellow ball players nicknamed him the Beast. He was strong and could slam home runs that folks would talk about for years back in those days. And he won the Triple Crown, was MVP 3 times, hit 534 home runs. And there's a funny quote from Lefty Grove that said, Jimmy Fox wasn't scouted, he was trapped. All right, Joe Cronin, Hall of Famer, was one of the best hitting shortstops of his day. Actually, an interesting fact here. He was born in his aunt's basement in San Francisco because of the huge earthquake of that year. It displaced the whole family back in 1906. Now, he posted a batting average of .301 for over 20 years. He became a manager, then an executive, and later on became president of the American League from 1959 to 1973. Robert Moses Grove, better known as Lefty Grove, has a .680 win percentage. That is the highest of any member in the 300 win club. That's amazing. Lefty had the lowest ERA in the American League in 9 of his 17 seasons, 7 of which seasons he won 20 games, and that includes his 1931 season when he went 31-4. Now here's Paul Waner. He was a born hitter. He has a career total of 3,152 hits, a .333 lifetime average, and he was known as Big Poison. He and his brother, who we'll talk about next, made up the National League's top run-scoring tandem. Hall of Fame pitcher Burley Grimes said that I may have gotten him out, but I never fooled him. Check this out. His teammate, Buddy Hassett, said he had the agility of an acrobat, and before every game he'd do 15 to 20 minutes of backflips to get ready. Lloyd Waner, little brother of Paul, which is why they call him Little Poison, was just 5'9" and 132 pounds. But that was enough to rule the outfield real estate in the 20s and 30s in Pittsburgh. He may have been small in stature, but don't mistake Lloyd for lightweight. He had 4 200-hit seasons, 2,459 total hits, and 118 triples. Oh, and if you combine his career hits with his brother's, that's 5,611 hits. The most ever by 2 brothers. Now, this guy is one of my favorite all-time players. Mel Ott, one of those unicorns that went straight to the front line, skipping minor league instruction, to become a 6-time league leader in home runs. His manager, John McGraw, wasn't going to let anybody send him to the minors. He said, I don't want anyone tinkering with that natural swing. It must have been in his DNA. Remember his batting stance? It's really unique. He had the bat down low around his waist and then just jacked right into the ball when it came to. Oh, man, he was something else. He was signed at age 16 with the New York Giants, and he played for the rest of his career for that team. Now, I'm not speaking for everybody, but those are the traits that us baseball lovers adore in a player. That kind of loyalty, that kind of talent. He had 511 career home runs. Rabbit Moranville, okay. Not much of a hitter, just 258 career average, but he was definitely the best shortstop in the game back then. And there were those silly antics like his vest pocket catch. He'd get under a pop-up and with little concern and his arms at his side, watch the ball dramatically falling right toward his head. Did he lose it? No. Suddenly he put his hands together at his waist and let the ball fall directly into the pocket of his glove. Other players were not fond of his hot dogging, but the fans loved it. He got his nickname from a neighbor girl whose family he was close to. She asked for tickets to the game, and he got them for her and her little sister. Then after the game, he came over to the neighbor's house for dinner and was greeted at the door by the girl and said, "Hey, Rabbit!" And he asked, "What's all this rabbit stuff?" And she said, "Well, my little 7-year-old sister, Skeeter, named you that because you hop around like one." Wally Berger is one of the commons in the set, and I just wanted to prove to you that there are commons, not many. Most were the stars of their day. Wally hit for average and power for the Boston Braves, and him and his brother Fred Berger played in the Pacific Coast League. He had a .300 average from 1940 to 1950, 242 home runs. Very respectable. Now, this is that card that's very rare, and you can see these holes poked in here. It's canceled, that's what they're calling it. This guy, Hyvee, played for the Yanks, Red Sox, and the Indians. He went 13-7 for the Browns in 1935. He had a nice career, but most widely known for being that player on that rare card from 1933. All right, that's what I would do with Geoff Wilson's money. I would love to know what you would do with that. Drop your comments down below. I'd love to see what you're thinking. And listen, we talk about happiness a lot on this show because that's the most important thing when we're talking about baseball. You need to be happy. So don't wait for people to bring it to you. You go out and get it. Get it yourself. And I'll talk to you again real soon.
Cardboard meditation helps set your mind right. Thank you for watching. Show us your appreciation by clicking the like and subscribe button. Ring the bell while you're at it so you'll know when we upload a new story.